Thank you everybody here for turning up and making this a family occasion, because I think it is. The reason we're here is because I suppose we're sort of just another bit of Peter's family. Sorry about that. But we really are one great big family, and it's been noticeable actually that there's lots of people who've been chatting to each other because they haven't seen them for N years, and lots of people who've made acquaintances and have been getting on really well together. It's all part of the ambience of the editorial department. Thank you, Sue. What I was going to say was, Peter, I was going to say that try to convey the heartfelt gratitude, really, which all of us in the editorial department owe for your leadership. And I was going to say thank you for that, and thank you for much, much more, which every one of us understands. And I was going to go on to say an awful lot more. I was going to say you've wisely given the editorial department a firm voice in the deliberations of the management of the company, and I know how difficult that can be. I went to a CapEx meeting on Friday. There was only Michael Coates, he was in the chair, Colin Mannering and myself. And there wasn't any idle chatter, it was number crunching all the time. And it was fairly intense. We only actually broke for a sausage roll, as it were. And Michael Coates was in the chair, and he said, this meeting is going to be brief. And it lasted 3 hours. But it is vital that the editorial department does have that voice. And it's a voice which Peter has strongly put since 1976. There are few of us really who know just how much he has put forward the editorial department in that. And all of us know that it's been for the good of the editorial department. Your judgments, your view of life, the universe, Peter, and everything has always been astute and sagacious. And it's always been fair, and it's most of the time been accurate as well. And it's always been for the welfare of the editorial department and the individuals who make up that department. I was actually thinking of saying a lot more, but a lot of it's been said, and a lot of it's going to be said by each and every one of us later on. But I was actually in Peter's office, and bear in mind it is Peter's office, he's still there until next Saturday, even though we've given him next Friday off. Peter is still editor of the Chronicle and editorial director. I was in his office. On his notice board, he had this, I suppose it's a sort of philosophy of life, really. It's summed up in a couple of 100 words. I don't know whence it came, Peter. Probably about 10 years ago it seems to have surfaced, I think. It's called Desiderata. I don't know whether anyone has, or any other person in this room has actually come across it. I just want to read a few bits from it to you. It's really, I suppose, it sums up in many ways Peter's philosophy of life, at least some of it, not all of it. It is, as I say, a couple of 100 words. It was found actually in Old St Paul's Churchyard, Baltimore, and it was dated 1692, just slightly before the Chronicle. As far as possible, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. I'm going to stop halfway through and say, and to a certain extent, I mean, Peter, in fact, that sums up one of Peter's philosophy. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let not this blind you to what virtue there is. Peter certainly had that. He's never blinded by trickery. He always sees what virtue there is. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. Well, actually, I think Peter has done that. You're a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Well, the universe is unfolding in the sense that Peter has regrettably, I think, decided to take an early retirement. He's going, in fact, to unfold his own universe, as it were, elsewhere. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, whatever your labours and your aspirations in the noisy confusion of life. Keep peace with your soul. With all its sham and drudgery and broken dreams, it's still a beautiful world. Be cheerful and strive to be happy. I think that really does sum up some of Peter Smith's philosophies. And I think it sums up, in a sense, some of his teachings, the teachings of Peter Smith in many ways. Peter, I think the only two words I can say on behalf of everybody is thank you. Really thank you for all those things, for all those years, for all the counselling, the listening, for those sagacious and astute words you've given to everybody, whether it be on a personal basis or whether it be a professional basis. Thank you very much. I think you'll now have something else, as I said, to focus on. And hopefully what... actually this will help you focus on that. And also, with the support of the music club. Sorry, Stephen Barry. Thank you very much indeed. I hope that you will be on show. I'm sorry. Broken the laugh. Right. Okay, chaps. We have more posters, please. We have that will give you a clear vision. Not to be by any means. Absolutely magnificent.
Was it? All right.
Not go on.
She's still hugging you, Peter.
Thank you all very much. Stuart, I hear what you're saying. Very glad because it was in English and not in Latin. I had not intended to make a speech. I got one. You'll have to push me a little bit.
How long do you reckon? Right, could you...
I'll edit and highlight as we go along, because at least a couple of people have heard some of the bits of this before.
And it's brilliant. But not again, please.
Second time round, Steve.
If I just briefly mention some of the highlights of a long career in journalism. I started in 1949, which is an unbelievably long time ago to most of you. I was straight from school and just short of my 16th birthday. My first job was on a long defunct newspaper, the Macclesfield Courier, which was the best part of 2 hours travelling time away from where I lived in Cheshire. My wage then was 30 shillings a week, which for those of you who were paid metrically, £1.50. My travel costs were over £2 a week. So to survive, I relied heavily on my parents for food and the occasional pair of socks. Trainees here would say, so what's new? A train was different in those days. It worked on the basis of monkey see, monkey do. You were shown how to do something a couple of times, and then expected to get it right. If you didn't, you'd be told to do it again, and again, and again. After about the fifth again, the news editor would get bored, and he'd say, well, possibly you're in the wrong job, maybe you'd be better off working in a bank or Woolworths or somewhere. Tesco's haven't been invented then. The office was staffed almost entirely with men, who wore trilby all the time, especially when sitting at a typewriter, and they smoked incessantly. It was a hell of a training. The news editor was either related to, or on first-name terms, everybody in the town. One of my first jobs was the funeral write-ups. This was accomplished by a visit every Monday afternoon to 5 funeral directors. It was accomplished on foot. There was no public transport involved, there was no cars. We got to the undertakers and they would laboriously read out the details of the latest batch of dearly parties who had been packed off, and they would give you great long lists of mourners, which you would laboriously transcribe into your notebook and bring back. And the news editor would look at them when you type them up and he would say, there are 2 names wrong here. He wouldn't tell you which 2. And he would say, go back, get them right. And you soon learn. As I say, if you want to have a trade. I remember on one visit being told the exciting story of a local man who died on holiday in Spain. This was just at the start of the package tour industry. And as we talked, he'd been flown back, the body had been flown back for burial in the hometown. And as we talked, the undertaker pointed out that it was his coffin we were standing next to as we took the notes. And then came the crunch question. Would you like to see him? Well, I was going on 18, northern macho man, rugby player, frightened of nothing, sort of, yeah, let's have a look. I came the lid. There he was. Best suit, hair parted in the middle. looked, and I said the first thing that came to mind, I said, "Isn't he brown?" And he said, "Oh yes, he's holidayed in the world, of course." Shortly after that, I went into my national service. You read about that all over the place. And as you're well aware, I became a trained killer at 18. But when they found out I could read and type after a fashion, I was immediately sent on the training course to be a clerk. About this time that I was asked if I would like to have a commission. But being from a newspaper background, I knew about this sort of thing, so I said, "No thanks, I'll have a regular wage like the rest of the lads do." I finished up at the School of Infantry on Salisbury Plain in charge of records. I had actually some of the official secrets out by this time. The biggest secret I ever came across was when I found a personal assessment of me, which contained the memorable phrase, "This man displays a good deal of low cunning." I was involved in 1954. I went back to the Stockport Express to work at Chelmsford, and was there 2.5 years or so. And then I came down here because my predecessor, Mike Roberts, had started a newspaper in Colchester on behalf of the then management of the Essex Chronicle Series. This was in the days when there were not just press barons in Fleet Street, there were bijou press baronets in the Shire counties as well. So there was one group led by Benham and Co. in Colchester, and I can't even remember the great long title of it now, but the Chelmsford lot. The Colchester Express was opened as part of this skirmishing. It was an amazing experience for two young journalists. We had virtually our own paper to play with. The office was a small room behind the dental surgery. There were only two of us. The photographer worked full-time in the factory, so he was only available at times on the weekend. And the only transport we had was a very elderly Austin Ruby, which stood outside on the hill with 2 bricks on the wheel, so it wouldn't roll away. So it was tremendous.